A prisoner had foam coming out of his mouth and had seizures in his friend's cell before he died. This happened in Hmp Lowdham Grange, and this is what the inquest has heard. Now, this is an absolute pandemic inside the prison estate at the moment. Prisoners are getting off their heads because they are getting kept in their pads nigh on 23 hours a day. The way that the prisoners are getting kept in the system at the moment is absolutely ludicrous. Because of the understaffing, the overcrowding, prisoners are getting kept in their pads for up to 23 hours a day. The same as if you were in solitary confinement, or roundabouts the same, because that would be 23 and a half hours, or 23 depending on what prison you are in. But the prison I'm talking about in this one is Patrick Morn, arrived at Hmp Lowdham Grange, which is in Nottinghamshire, on the 6th of February 2024, but the 50-year-old died at the Category B jail on the 17th of November that same year. A jury inquest at Nottingham Coroner's Court on Monday heard cocaine and synthetic cannabinoids, often known as spice, were found in Morn's system following a toxicological fucking hell, sorry about that. That is a tongue twister. Toxicological examination. Try say it, people. Toxicological. But getting serious, drugs in the jail were described as a big problem at the time of his death, with drones among the methods used to bring in illegal substances, the jury heard. So obviously at this inquest there's obviously a jury, and they're looking into how exactly he died, which they've got out in cases like this. But I have had a look in to see on Patrick Morn. I've put him in Google, but I couldn't find anything on Patrick Morn to find out exactly who he is. But this is a prisoner on normal location that has had coke and spice in his system. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of what's actually went on inside the prison, but normally a prisoner who's got coke in his system isn't the type of prisoner on spice either. So you can't come to the assumption, I don't know, obviously it was on the 17th of November, there might have been some sort of celebration, a birthday or something, which normally happens inside of prison, and some of the likely lads having a bit of hooch and a bit of that. And you never know, someone might have been passing the spliff round thinking, because I have known this happen on a number of occasions inside the jail, when lads have been on the piss, they've had a bit of that, someone's sitting with one of them and you're thinking it's weed. Pick this, it happened in Northumberland. The certain person grabbed the fucking spliff thinking it was weed, couple of talks, boosh, bang, out on the bed, same as this, started fitting. Luckily he didn't die, but he thought that was weed when in fact it was spice. So like I've just said, I don't know the ins and outs of what's actually went on, but this is in a few of the headlines today, and I'm bringing it straight to you from here. In bold writing it says, big character. Patrick Morn had a known history of drug usage prior to arriving at Lowdham Grange. Obviously must have had drug tests in the previous prison, unless they come to the assumptions from Screws, and had on occasion been seen by staff who suspected he was under the influence. Now that is a big statement to make, saying they suspected he was under the influence. You can't just say you suspect somebody unless you know them. They might not have known him. He could have had hay fever, he could have had something that made his eyes red, we don't know. But you can't just say suspected he was under the influence. He might have been pissed, he might have been a drinker. Then you can't just go and say suspect he was under the influence of drugs when it could have been anything. Could have been medication. His medication could have been, like I've just said, it was November, so it wouldn't have been hay fever. But he could have had a dust allergy, and Hmp Lowdham Grange might have been fucking dusty. But getting back to the main headline, or the main story. On the 17th of November 2024, he had gone into the cell of his neighbour shortly before 10 o'clock, but minutes later, other inmates reported to staff he had run onto the bed before having several seizures. A code blue was issued. Code blue is an emergency. Obviously, they press the bell. A code blue, the radio through. Someone's went over. Quick, get the paramedics. The paramedics have arrived soon afterwards, but he was pronounced deceased at the jail at 11:37, just over an hour and a half later. Laura Fox, who worked as a prison officer at Lowdham Grange at the time, was one of those who responded to prisoners' concerns for Morn, who she described as a big character on the wing, which fits in with what I was saying earlier on. If he's a big character, well known, and he's had a bit of sniff, a bit of coke, then we don't know the exact reasons, but he's been a big character on the wing, which means he was well liked. Bubbly person, big character, was well liked on the wing, made an impact on the other prisoners, liked to have had a laugh. She said she had seen him the day before when he looked really well and was talking about courses he was completing, but when she found him unresponsive, she put him in the recovery position and called for help. His eyes were rolling back, he had foam coming out his mouth, and he was gurgling, she said. Now that fits in exactly what I was saying earlier on. She's seen him the day before looking really well. If he was a spicehead, he would have been on the stuff every day. That's what spiceheads do. If he was looking really well the prior day, then he doesn't seem to have been a spicehead. He's got sniff in his system. I do probably believe he's took that, not meaning to get off his nut, the way that it's happened. And it goes in to say as well, obviously his eyes are rolling back, foam's coming out his mouth, he's gurgling, doesn't seem like he's used to taking it. A post-mortem examination found no external injuries or natural disease contributed to Patrick's death. Instead, it was believed to have been caused by toxic effects of coke and synthetic cannabinoids found in the system. Police responded to his case, found no evidence of third-party involvement or suspicious behaviour linked to his death. The court heard Lowdham Grange had problems dealing with drugs being brought into the jail. Gareth Evans, the current head of safety who arrived at the jail the same month Patrick died, said the prison was much more chaotic at the time, but said staff had worked on limiting the ways drugs could arrive, which he said had been a problem across the prison service. So obviously Gareth Evans, the current head of safety who arrived at the jail the same time, has went on to say it was more chaotic before he arrived. So he's saying that he has brought it down and it's not as bad since he arrived. And there had been a big problem across the prison service. But Hmp Lowdham Grange is a private prison. And in the private prisons there is more of this going on, because guess what? The screws are bringing it in. It's not just the prisoners. So you can't put all the blame on the prisoners. Preventative measures include mail into prisoners being photocopied or sent from approved sources with barcodes to stop paper soaked in spice being handed to inmates, and side vents in cell windows that inmates could put hands through have been replaced with more secure designs. And it does say the inquest continues, but that has been going on for 6 years, where they've been doing the photocopying, because obviously, like it says on there, the mail that was getting soaked from the outside, getting sent to the prisoners, and guess what? The mail was getting delivered, hand-delivered, or even just chucked through the door. The prisoners were getting spice fucking chucked under the doors continuously until they got onto it and thinking, how the fuck is all this getting in the jail? Then when they realised it was coming through the paper, they stopped the mail, and the mail was getting photocopied. So if someone writes a letter to you, you get it sent in. It takes about 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks for prisoners to get the mail now. And when they get birthday cards sent in, guess what? They get them after the birthdays because there's not enough staff to deal with the problems and deal with the issue. So when the staff are calling in sick, they take the staff off the ones that are doing the mail. The prisoners suffer because they get the mail, like I've just said, sometimes 4 weeks later. Sometimes serious letters. I've known people have really serious letters sent in and not received them for 4 weeks. And they are the last to find out this news, which I've said is sometimes serious, which I'm not going to go into because I was in prison when it happened. Someone got a letter and it was soul destroying for the lad because he got the letter too late. There was a death involved, which could have been prevented if he got the mail on time. But this is what I mean by the overcrowding and the understaffing. So the mail, it gets sent in, it gets photocopied, then handed. Because like I've just said before, the fucking drugs were on Royal Mail delivery, just getting flung under the door. And that's when there was a massive problem at that point because everyone was off the fucking nuts. Well, not everyone, because a lot of prisoners don't take it, but the ones that could get their hands on it. And whilst I'm on the subject, a lot of prisoners go into prison who have never ever touched drugs previously. They go into prison and there's that much of it going on, and there's that much fucking boredom, and there's that much mental health problems. The only way they say they can cope is by taking something that is obviously class A's or class B's, whatever these narcotics that are inside the jail. The other inmates that are on them, they say, yeah, you might as well have some of this, it'll kill your time. And believe it or not, a lot of prisoners leave prison with a drug habit who have never touched it in their life because the prisons are more accessible and they have more of it inside than what there is readily available to some people on the outside. And there is, like I said at the beginning, a massive pandemic throughout the prison estate. HMP Park being probably one of the worst. The amount of deaths that there's been inside of there because they're actually lacing the spice with fentanyl and different narcotics like that, which is putting people straight over and killing them instantly. Which is probably what happened in this case with Patrick Morn. The spice, sometimes they don't realise how strong it is. But again, prisoners, I've been in prison when the spice was kicking about, and there was a death inside of HMP Home House when I was in there. And you hear of it, it was on the same wing, someone had went over, died, and then for me, someone that didn't take that shite was like shocked. You're like, fucking hell, the poor fucker. Then you get the other lads who take it, like, fucking hell, yes, that stuff must be power, get me some of that. I want some. You're thinking, you want some? Someone's just died of it, but you want it. Sort your fucking head out. That's what I was thinking, but that's what happens. They go around shouting, power. That stuff's power, get me some of that. So instead of being scared and thinking, wow, I do not want that, someone's just died, these same prisoners are saying, I want that, it's power. But that's another story about different things. What I just thought I would mention, that at the end about the pandemic and that, it's fucking the amount of prisoners that are dying from taking that shite. But like I say, a lot of the deaths, obviously, it's not on purpose. It's not like it's not like they've done it on purpose. But when you hear about prisoners saying, I want that after they know someone's went over, then you're thinking, what sort of fucking world are you living in? But a lot of them, like I've mentioned, suffering with mental health, they see no other way out apart from taking something that could possibly kill them on the spot. And like I've said, people who are sending it in are lacing it with all sorts of shite. And the prisoners aren't realising how strong it is. But I will leave that one there for now, people. I just thought I would bring you that because it is popping up on a few of the headlines when I'm looking up on prison news to see what's happening inside the prisons. But I thought I would bring that because I did want to tell you about the pandemic. The people that have never been to prison who watch my channel, my new subscribers, and the ones that have been watching for a while, but people who have never been to prison before don't realise what goes on inside of there. And then they just say, right, they serve themselves right. A lot of these prisoners that have died, a lot of people that are inside a prison are actually decent people. A lot of them, like I've just said, go in who have never touched drugs in their life and they come out addicted. So whose fault is that? Yes, it's the fault of the person who's took it, but it's the fucking fault of the prison as well for having it ram-packed full of shite. But I'm going to leave that one there for now, people. Hopefully you are enjoying the content. And if you are, remember to comment, like and subscribe. Take care everyone, but most importantly, stay safe.